Kaysen Taylor. According to a 2024 CDC report, millions of Americans use marijuana across the Americas, but few ever progress to harsher drugs, which is kind of crazy because marijuana is still labeled as a gateway drug and promoted that in politics, online, and in schools. But it's important to ask the question, does modern research actually support this idea? Now, maybe you know somebody that uses marijuana or have had personal experience. It's something that you constantly hear on the news and on social media, but it's really easy to be influenced based on these fear-based claims. Some people say that marijuana puts you on an automatic path to using harsher drugs, but it's really important to look at what the research really shows. It can really help to influence the future generations if you do your own research and push your own agenda instead of looking at misleading things. Now, it's easy to mislabel this, but we have to look at what the evidence actually says. Before we start, let me give you some quick background, because people argue that marijuana or early use increases the chances of using harder drugs. Even the NIH says this, the National Institute of Health and Association. But they also say that it's mixed research at the end of the day as well, that it's also factors like environments and mental health. So today, my goal is to show you that marijuana is not a gateway drug. First, I'm going to explain the environmental factors that attribute to it. The second, I will be showing how legalization stopped opioid-related harm in states. And third, how marijuana can be used as a reduction tool. Now, first point is that environmental factors are a big point. The CDC says that the risk factors are usually determined by how early you use it, how poverty, loneliness, family addiction. These are all things that make somebody more addicted and vulnerable to addiction and harsher drugs. But they found that mental health conditions and socioeconomic health has a way bigger play in misuse than anything else. They also determined that marijuana is not the causal, but the environmental factors. Next, let's look at when marijuana becomes legal. Because when the cannabis in 2003, researchers from the Frontiers of Psychiatry say that, or this was the UPMC, the University of Pittsburgh and Medical Center, say that there was a 7.6 drop in decrease in emergency visits and opioids within the first 6 months of legalization of marijuana in the United States. So this directly counteracts marijuana being pushed towards harder drugs. This brings me to my final point, that marijuana is not a gateway drug, but it also helps people step away from harder substances. Marijuana actually serves as a harm reduction tool, and it's being researched as a harm reduction tool because you can use it as a step back and basically a substitution therapy towards reducing your usage on alcohol, both alcohol and on opioids. The researchers noticed that when people use marijuana instead of other harsher drugs, they have way less relapse and they have a smoother transition. Now, to bring this all together, today I shared 3 points. First, we saw that environmental factors and mental disabilities also have a big part of future misuse. Second, we talked about how legalization has reduce misuse. And third, that marijuana could actually be used as a harm reduction tool. So because drugs use is so easily misspread online, I encourage you heavily to look at the facts. It doesn't just help you, it helps reduce stereotypes around a whole world of gateway at this point. I really would recommend the National Institute of Health. They have really good articles on their website about how marijuana can be used as a reduction tool. That's basically it. I want to thank you guys for sharing or for being here. Have a good one.